It's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy and ascension forecast for Sunday, December 10th to Saturday, December 16th. So last week, of course, we kicked the door down to December, really kind of just pushing ourselves out of that very tough chapter that many of us were experiencing throughout the month of November. We came into a brand new month, into a brand new vibration, life lesson. And of course, we definitely got the party started because Mercury moved into Capricorn on the 1st. This has definitely been very heavy in our headspace. We've taken on a very serious, very somber tone. We're really down to earth, very grounded, but with that comes a little bit of depression, a little bit of funk, if I do say so myself. Now, of course, we had Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money, step out of her rulership in Libran energy to do a deep dive in our emotional realm in Scorpio energy. Yes, this is definitely putting a lot of intensity on the heart activations in order for us to realize these new passions, these new desires, and equally the pain, the trauma, the past residue of our experiences blocking us from truly aligning with what it is that we know would make our heart happy. We have the last quarter moon in Virgo energy really put the tunnel vision goggles on, really put us in a mood, an attitude of high processing, where our thoughts are concerned, where our feelings are concerned, and we definitely seen some adjustments to our physical realm, especially where relationship dynamics are concerned, because that is the hot button topic and theme as of late, because of course we busted out with this new version of ourselves, this new identity back in November under the new moon in Scorpio that we're currently experimenting with. This experimental energy is definitely putting us in a different mood, different attitude, different sense of self, and therefore nothing in our lives really looks the same. May not have changed much in the physical realm, but the inner realm has gone through such a change, transformation, and metamorphosis that suddenly everything just looks different. Good, bad, or otherwise, doesn't matter. Our perception has very much changed, and we are really starting to see in our external realm the reflection of how much we've actually changed, grown, and healed. Of course, that last quarter moon in that Virgo energy definitely did a number on our digestive system. Many of us really suffering with a lot of nausea, a lot of bubble guts, a lot of gas pains. We knew this was coming. We knew from last week's Ascension forecast what we were in for, but the fact that that last quarter moon in Virgo that we found kind of sandwiched in between Venus moving into Scorpio energy and then Neptune going direct on the 6th, we definitely had a wave of energy, a wave of emotion, put us in a very debilitated kind of state. Now, this week, we are moving into what I am going to call the toughest week of the calendar year. A lot of that is because we are initiating, activating the testing phase on whether or not we can walk the walk, talk the talk, and really pluck from our past experiences the wisdom and the knowledge that we've already learned through those tough love life lessons and override the initial egoic reaction that the dark force entities are definitely going to come at us, trigger and activate us to see whether or not we can act as the observer, to see whether or not we are going to fall victim to the same reactory behaviors and patterns as our old self once did, or whether or not we are going to rise above, see the tests for what they are, and absolutely kind of pass the test with a lot of flying colors. Now, we have the new moon in Sagittarius popping off on the 12th. 8 hours later, we have Mercury going retrograde in Capricorn energy. Now, this is already being felt, and I would say for the majority of us, the amount of solar flares and CMEs that we've experienced throughout this past week has definitely done a number not only on our physical body, but on our energetic body as well. We knew this this fluctuation of energy was coming, but it still doesn't really kind of help us to avoid some of the physical repercussions, the emotional, mental, spiritual repercussions of having this much energy come at us at one time. That was essentially prepping us, priming us for this particular week that we are about to dive into. Again, if you haven't listened to last week's Ascension forecast, I'm going to recommend you do so, because that was kind of setting the stage, so to speak, on what it is that we're talking about this week. Because we are gaining a lot more distance to the solstice, this is why we're going to be in a testing phase. This is a pressurized system where we are being tested to see whether or not, again, we've learned anything, whether or not we do have power and control over our emotions, over our thoughts, over our physical body. And we are really going to feel this intensity come at us to trigger us in a lot of different ways. And again, the main goal here from the dark force entities is to keep us at a low vibration, a low frequency, so that around the time of that solstice energy, when the old karmic doors close and the new karmic doors open, that we are locking in a low vibratory signature for us to be working with, which means that we're picking the lower timelines. We're picking the lower soul contracts that go with that particular vibration, that frequency, in the identity that we're currently experimenting with, that the dark force entity agenda is hoping that we lock in for this next karmic chapter. This is going to be hard. I'm already feeling the little bit of Debbie Downer, little bit of negative Nancy, little bit of existential dread. A lot of that coming from Mercury, of course, being in Capricorn energy. And so we do have to really boost ourselves up, prepare ourselves for a very challenging week ahead. And again, there's going to be a lot of elements from the past coming back into the present moment to see where it is that we've grown, where it is that we've healed, or where it is that we have failed to do both of those things very, very miserably. So again, we want to be prepared. We want to understand what's happening here. That is the best chance that we all have to kind of stay ahead of these energies and to really rise above, locking in to this new karmic chapter when we hit that solstice energy with the highest vibration, the highest frequency possible. But it's definitely going to be a challenge. Okay, so before I kind of jump into ranting and raving and talking about the Ascension symptoms for this week, I do have to cover a couple of homework items. First of all, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for commenting, for dropping beautiful emojis in the comment section. I want to thank you for all the love, and especially if you're joining me here Friday evening in the chat, I want to thank you so much for showing up, for really kind of giving your part, your energy, your presence to this beautiful community that, of course, we have been building, which leads me into my next thank you. Thank you so much for being part of helping me to reach 5,000 subscribers. Wow. Did I ever think I was going to get here? Well, the way YouTube's been treating me, nope. Didn't think I was going to get here anytime fast. Now, that being said, of course, it takes a lot of patience to actually kind of see these particular things through. I think consistency, which is not one of my strong points, believe it or not, has definitely contributed to the very slow building of this community. But if you're here, if you're listening, if you've ever listened to a video, like, subscribe, comment, and I want to thank you for your contribution in helping me get here. It means that the information, the knowledge is starting to show up in front of the people that need it the most. And that has been my whole motive this whole time. Sure, likes, okay, if you want to play the numbers game, it's a lovely achievement to actually get. But to me, I see those numbers as people. I see those numbers as an element of connection and an element of enlightenment as well. Of course, when we all come together, we're of like mind, we're of the same vibration and frequency, and we're all trying to be better, to improve, to evolve, it definitely has a reverberatory effect. So just think of how many people we've all been able to actually touch in a certain way because we came together under a specific guideline, channel, information, message, It's a beautiful thing. And so I just want to thank you for being a part of it. I want to thank you for the continued love and support. And I really just hope that YouTube continues to actually push my content in front of my subscribers that have selected that they want to see it, that they want to hear it. And of course, really make this information a little bit more available to those of like mind that maybe need a little bit of help, need a little bit of guidance. So the thank yous are going to continue. I want to thank those of you that have kind of trickled over to Patreon. Of course, this week's rant was about the stages of awakening, kind of getting down to the nitty gritty. It was a very, very long rant and rave. I think it was like an hour and a half. So for those of you over on my Patreon that sat through that, my goodness, thank you so much. Had a lot of positive feedback on that particular episode. And if you didn't know, you can jump over to Patreon and as a free member and kind of sample all of my different content over there. So you definitely get a preview of what that Marley Rants episode was all about here this week. I would definitely recommend that you take a jump over to Patreon and see what my private community is all about. So, of course, I did mention that we do have a new moon that we are very quickly approaching taking place this week, which means that there will be a moon guide available for this particular event, probably being launched maybe late Sunday, early Monday. Again, we have to wait for the moon to actually get in that particular energy so that we're all in the emotional and mental mind frame that we need to be in order to do the shadow work that this particular moon is really offering us. And again, because this is like the last new moon before the solstice, it is very, very important for us to kind of get our shit together, get in alignment, get our energy grounded in. There's a lot coming out of this particular new moon, and especially in Sagittarius energy, there's going to be a whole hell of a lot of truth in order for us to piece those puzzle pieces together and reveal a bigger, broader picture, bigger, broader perspective of where it is that we would like to go from here. Again, I'm also just going to take this moment to recommend that you download your December zodiac forecast if you haven't already. We still have a lot of astro events coming at us that you're going to want to stay ahead of, which means that listening to that zodiac forecast will let you know where these energies are going to pop up in your life, where the topics and themes are likely going to take hold. And again, all we can do is stay informed, stay ahead of this energy, and of course, kind of understand where it is going to try and get us down. There is that Sagittarius Season E guide available for download as well. We have a lot going on, and I would really recommend that you do the work. I know it's a crazy time for many people, especially moving into the holiday season, but it is very recommended that you stay as grounded to your energy as possible. And of course, all of those resources are available to you to help guide you through. I also just want to mention, first of all, thank you to those of you that have taken advantage of the gift certificates that I've put out, really locking in the old pricing and really reserving a spot for you once my calendar for 2024 opens. We are in the last few days. This is only going to be available up until the 12th. Again, new moon in Sag, very specific. And of course, once I close the gift certificate pricing, lock-in, whole shebang thing, I will be launching my calendar for the first couple of months of 2024. So those of you that have already kind of gotten your gift certificate, watch out for that opening of my calendar so that you can reserve yourself a spot. I want to thank you so much for those of you that are giving yourself the gift of guidance in the New Year's. And of course, thank you so much to those of you who are giving the gift of guidance to someone that you love. Okay, so with all that out of the way, let's jump into it. Like I previously mentioned, this is going to be a tough week. From now up until the solstice is going to be very, very challenging. And again, this is just kind of a test from the universe to see whether or not we have integrated what it is that we've learned through the tough love life experiences that, of course, we've been going through. There are a huge amount of people that have awarenesses, that have knowledge, that have had experiences that fail to integrate that into their being. They find themselves in similar situations as they've already gone through in the past, and suddenly it's as if this was the first time they've ever even encountered this type of situation, and they lose the fact that they've already learned this lesson. Things don't have to be hard. Things don't have to be difficult if you're able to bring forth the information, the wisdom, the knowledge from your previous tough love life lessons and integrate it so that you can skip a lot of the more challenging parts and really apply what it is that you've learned and see things from a different perspective and really just kind of fast forward through this very challenging obstacle, if you will, in getting yourself at the right place in order to understand what it is that you can fast forward through because you've already learned it. This is about integration. You can't just know something and not do anything about it. Once you know better, you have to do better. And this is where processing, we've been processing, and integration are definitely going to be seen, be highlighted. So we're definitely in for the squeeze. Now, I already kind of mentioned we had a tough week when it came to the solar flares, to the solar activities, to the CMEs. This is just prepping us. This is trying to get our physical bodies to the point in which they need to be at to be the strongest vessels that they can be to house the kind of light coming at us from the cosmos, really ushering in us into this new karmic chapter that will be popping off with the solstice. Over the next couple of years, we will see increases when it comes to these solar activities and the amount of influence that it actually takes on our physical bodies. Now, let me also just say that sometimes you can't run from the physical discomfort that this particular energy fluctuation will absolutely create in our physical forms. I, for one, to be totally transparent this week, I am very low energy. I am tired. The word tired and exhausted doesn't even summarize how it is that I'm feeling. I feel like if I blink too slowly and my eyes stick together, that I'll actually pass out and just fall into a deep-seated coma, which is really strange because when it's actually time to go to sleep, I don't sleep. So this is a very difficult time to kind of keep your emotions on the more positive side when your physical body is absolutely beyond exhausted. I feel like, and for myself, I mean, we all have to take a look at the fact that we're in a collective lesson, right? So we're going through these particular life lessons and chapters. We're all experiencing these solar flares. That is a collective lesson. But individually speaking, we have different things popping off in our birth charts. And I know I had my birthday back in November. That's when the solar codes are downloaded. But people don't realize that the majority of the activations in our chart come either a little bit before or a little bit after our actual birthday. That's when all the returns are happening. Now, again, not getting into the particulars of my chart, but I have so many activations taking place in my chart this week that I'm surprised that I'm even up and being able to do these sessions, to do the bare minimum of what it is that I have been doing throughout this past week. Because, like I said, if I could show you my chart, you would say, like, how is this person functioning? It does not feel good. I'm not going to try and paint it in a light, fluffy color. It is not fun. It does not feel good. And I am very much struggling with my energy, with my mood, with my attitude, not only because of the collective lessons that we're going through and all of the solar flares and all of the impact that that has on the physical form, but because of my personal chart as well. So this is why I encourage you to get to know your chart. You need to be able to identify when you wake up in the morning, when you are moving throughout your day and you're having a sensation, either an emotional sensation, a mental sensation, a physical sensation, a spiritual sensation. You have to be able to realize, okay, this is different. This is not my norm. I wonder what's going on with me. You need to be going to your chart. You need to be taking a good look at your chart and understanding the activations that are taking place on that day. If you're like, oh man, I would love to, but I look at my chart and I don't understand it at all, well then jump over to my Patreon. We have Astro Class over there. There is a whole library, a whole archive on how to understand your birth chart, and not to be an astrologer, just to understand for your own personal navigation, what days are good, what days are bad, why am I feeling this way, why am I having this sensation, and actually being able to identify the particular energies that are popping off off in the cosmos because of your particular natal placements. So with that being said, I think that it is, especially seeing as we're moving into the age of Aquarius, it is essential that everybody have a bare basic understanding of how to look up their birth chart, how to look up the present day transits, and to really explore what that actually means for you when things are popping off and when you're not really feeling like your normal self. So yes, I would say that even though I'm having my own particular chart activation, the collective is very tired. We are beyond exhausted. We are feeling very dizzy, very pressurized in our headspace, and probably feel like there are times where we could just pass out. A lot of this is because the energy that is currently kind of floating around in the cosmos right now isn't stable. First of all, we're in Sagittarius season. That's a mutable sign. Mutable signs are ever changing. We are constantly seeking information, details, truth, mission, purpose. Every single time we get a little bit of a detail, we run with it. We're scatterbrained. We can't focus. We can't ground, which means that we're bouncing all over the place like a pinball machine. And we have that ADHD squirrel brain, although, Mercury being in that Capricorn energy has kind of grounded us out in that regard. We're still kind of all over the place. We're rapidly accelerating through this particular recalibration series that we've been going through since November 13th, and it will not stop until we reach the solstice energy. That is when the vibration, the frequency that we're currently experimenting with will be locked in for this next chapter. So there's still a rapid movement, rapid processing going on in our physical bodies, in our emotional planes, in our mental planes, in our energetic avatars as well. And so this is definitely having a major effect on us and on our physical body. So I want to talk about this bad mood, this bad perspective, this bad narrative, this funk that many of us find ourselves in. That is very much the weight, the groundedness, the existential dread, the role, the responsibilities that are weighing very heavily on us, especially from Mercury being in this Capricorn energy and anticipating just a couple of days away his retrograde. It does not feel good. Now, granted, the positive aspects here are that we are going to be rapidly processing different perspectives, different ideas. We're looking back once Mercury retrogrades, and we're really seeing where it is that the long-term path, the long-term goal that we once had either did come into fruition and manifest, or it very much did not. And from either of those points, we really have to kind of process what it is that we did, what it is that we could have done differently, what it is that we want to improve upon, what it is that we want to make better, what it is that we want to pursue now. But again, as you've been hearing me say throughout the whole course, basically of 2023, that we're in a particular situation, circumstance, and scenario right now where the answers that we are seeking to our future are actually found in the past. The whole back to the future vibe continues. And once Mercury goes retrograde, you best believe that the back to the future is definitely going to be intensified. You're going to see people from your past come back, ideas, thoughts, and conversations, circumstances come back from the past. We're going to see old passions, old desires come back from the past. Why? Because we have a new level of awareness. We've reached a new level of enlightenment, of consciousness. We need to kind of take a good look at what it is that we have done, what it is that we plan to do, what it is that we're actually doing, what it is that we want to do. We have to see the overlapping factors there. We have to put the puzzle pieces together. And this is definitely going to intensify the, I'm going to say, inner workings of our mental plane that at this particular point in time aren't optimistic, aren't confident. We're kind of, like I said, Debbie Downers, negative Nancy's in this Capricorn energy. And so, yeah, I know we have to try to do the best that we can to stay in a positive mind frame, to stay in a positive emotional stance, if you will, especially as we approach the solstice. But at the same time, we don't want to bypass some of the heavier thoughts and emotions that we are currently having. If you've been listening to me for any amount of time, you would know that we do a lot of shadow work over here. And I am a true believer that the tough parts, the conflict, the tension that gets triggered and activated due to some of these astrological and cosmic forces are the most important transits for us to pay attention to. We learn more out of pain and trauma and discomfort than we do in happiness and joy and ease. The whole goal is to get to the happiness, joy, and ease, but of course, the path to get there is through navigating the pain and the trauma. And so this is a very important time for us to acknowledge where it is that we're not feeling so optimistic, we're not feeling so confident, we're not feeling so positive. We don't want to sit in it, but we want to acknowledge it. We want to ask it what it is here to teach us. We have a lot to learn from these particular, I'm going to call them low vibe experiences. And of course, we can only go as high or stand in the light as we've gone low in the darkness and really learn to appreciate the darkness for what it is. So acknowledge when you're in a bad mood, but understand where the seed has been planted and where it actually stemmed from. Understand and acknowledge when you're having a negative narrative or a not so nice perspective, but also understand where that stems from. The minute that you follow these particular seeds back to their originating, let's call them landscape, then you can really start to unravel whether or not it is an actual mood and attitude and funk that you're sitting in, or whether it's the residual energy from your past tough love life lessons, giving you a one-over, giving you another go to see how fast you can process your thoughts, your emotions, these bad moods, these negative funks. I would say, if you were being honest with yourself, you're able to process the not so nice thoughts and emotions much quicker now than you were able to do 6 months ago, a year ago, 3 years ago, because we have a new level of awareness. So don't try to bypass them. Don't try to push them away. Don't try to override them with a fake facade of happy-go-lucky. That is not doing yourself any kind of service. We want to remember that authenticity is the highest vibration, the highest frequency form that we could be standing in, but you got to get real, raw, and vulnerable with yourself. Okay, so let's talk about the fact that we're in Sag season. It's a rapid acceleration type of energy, but yet there's a lot of indicators, especially in our physical body, in our physical form, that's trying to make us slow down. I'm going to share a very stupid circumstance and event that has taken place in my life here this week, because I 100% knew better, but I failed to do better in that particular moment. And although I could sit here and blame my lack of sleep and blame my, ungrounded emotions because of the lack of sleep, at the end of the day, I was given a situation and circumstance that I was well versed on, and I failed to do what I know I should have done. And it's I'm going to give you just a little bit of a rant on it, just to give you a different perspective that some of these particular life lessons don't need to be this big, profound, mystical experience. Okay, so I have a background with working with large dogs. I used to be in a relationship, and that relationship, we bred Presa Canarios. They're huge guardian dogs. They're big monsters, but you definitely need to understand and be in the mind frame. When working with big dogs, you have to understand their behavior, their body language. Of course, being around those large dogs, there's always mishaps that can happen. You have to be able to really pick up on the subtle energies of all of the different personalities. So to say that I am well versed in dog language, in training, in handling not so nice situations that tend to pop off when you get dogs together, I'm very well versed in it. I very much understand body language. I understand how to or how not to get involved with dogs when they are in conflict with each other. And I'm just setting the scene. So many of you know I have 2 dogs. Both of them are very much guardian dogs, very much property dogs. Of course, a year ago, I moved into this new house, into this new province in which I'm currently in. And that kind of disrupted the flow that we had. I used to live on 5 acres in the middle of the woods. I didn't see anybody, had no neighbors, and therefore the only kind of interactions that me and my dogs kind of had were with the wildlife, with the bears, with the mountain lions, with the deer, with the porcupines, with the raccoons, with everything in between. So moving into this new place, moving into this new province, I am more, I'm going to say, socialized, I guess. I have neighbors. We have a very, very cute, very quaint kind of community here, but there's a lot more stimulation here for both my dogs and for myself. And so I have a fenced in yard. There are dogs in the neighborhood. You know, my dogs, they're not necessarily, I'm not going to say that they're friendly dogs, but they're not mean dogs either. They're just like, wow, there are other dogs in the world. This is crazy, right? We moved from being in the woods to not being in the woods. So we're still kind of adapting to all of these different interactions. So there are dogs in this community that aren't as well, I'm going to say, babysat or taken care of as some of the other dogs, which means that they tend to roam. And I had I'm going to call them a group of dogs. And I know one of the dogs very well. I met them as a puppy. She comes here for treats and she comes here for rubbings and it's all good. And I drive her home. It's a whole jam. We've been doing this for a year now. So my dogs were out. It was late. It was bedtime. So they were out for their last type of, outing before bedtime, doing all of their things for their bedtime routine. And lo and behold, out of the darkness of the woods behind us come 3 dogs running towards the fence at my dogs, took them by surprise. Of course, everybody's kind of at each other through the fence. I hear this big kerfuffle. I run out. I piece together what's happening. Again, I'm kind of not in my best state. I'm not present in my body. I'm tired. My day is done. I just want to go to bed. I'm exhausted, all of these things. And when it kind of pieces together out of the darkness of the shadows that there are dogs on the other side of the fence, provoking my dogs, I start freaking out. Of course, I'm hollering. I'm trying to get my dogs to pay attention to me. They are reactive dogs. Again, they've only really known each other and other family members' dogs. Those are the only socialization interactions that they get. So it's a very familiar thing. They grew up with these dogs that they interact with. These dogs are community dogs. I love them. I don't want to see them be hurt or harmed by my dogs, by themselves, whatever the case, but there's a very intense thing going on between the fence here. My dogs decide that they're so reactive, they can't get to these other dogs, that they are going to kind of take their anger and frustration out on each other. So now I'm seeing my dogs look at each other in a much more aggressive way than their normal play goes. That kind of freaked me out. What do? I run towards it. I try to get in the middle of it. I try to get my dogs back into the house. I try to get the dogs on the other side of the fence to go off of my property so I can kind of regain some control here. And as I was kind of shooing everybody away, my leg got in the middle of the barking, of the biting at the fence, and I got teeth marks in my leg. It hurts. It's painful. Why am I telling you this? Well, because first of all, we know that in Sagittarius season, there are going to be a lot of signs and symptoms in the physical body where the legs are concerned. Secondly, when we are at a point in time where we are not present in our physical bodies, in our physical forms, we tend to get little tiny accidents happen to slow us down so that we can kind of regain our footing, gain perspective, really root and ground in our own energy, and stop kind of flying by the seat of our pants. So let me just say to you that 100% did it for me. Because, of course, now I am dealing with overexcited dogs on both sides of the fence. To fill the story in, I did get my dogs indoors. I did get the other dogs back to their home, all well knowing damn well that I had a very serious wound on my leg that I was going to eventually have to pay attention to. But I can kind of withstand a lot of pain. I didn't even pay attention to it. I had things to do. I had fur babies to protect. And that was my main priority. And so when I finally got a chance to sit down and take a good look at the damage that was done to my leg, I just sat there and I felt so freaking stupid. I knew damn well that I should not be getting involved with reactive dogs, should not be getting in between dogs going at each other through fences. I should have not touched my dogs. I should have not even gone out into the yard. They would have resolved it themselves. I know exactly what I should have done by standing there looking at my bit up leg and understanding that I failed miserably. I knew better and I did not do better. I acted on impulse. I acted on old version of self. I did not integrate my past situation, circumstances, wisdom, knowledge. I did not integrate that I did not act from a grounded point of view. I did not act as the observer and calm my ass down before I went into a very dangerous situation when you have 5 dogs freaking out at each other through a fence. We have 2 on this side of the fence trying to defend their property, and then when I kind of went out and interjected myself, now they're trying to defend their owner. And I have 3 stranger dogs that essentially just rolled up on my property trying to start shit. Again, I knew one of the dogs. She was trying to get my attention because, of course, we have a beautiful relationship. But, of course, this was not a time for treats and scratchings and rubbings and taking her for a drive. And so she was all very upset. And, of course, this broke my very sensitive, very empathetic heart. I'm sitting here, I'm trying to clean my wounds. I definitely have. I'm not even going to tell you how bad it is. It could have been a lot worse. But this was my own stupidity because I was reactive, because I did not ground in my energy in that present moment. I lost my mind and I put myself in a situation that I knew damn well I had no business being in. So I know that this sounds like very kind of, mundane, daily life kind of shit. But let me just tell you the reason why I wanted to share this story is because most people think that they're waiting for this very profound mystical experience in order for them to rise above and act as the observer and understand the wisdom and the knowledge that they've accumulated from past experiences that they failed to integrate in their daily lives. And so it doesn't have to be a magical experience. And most times, it's not going to be a magical experience. May I remind you, we are human beings on a physical, dense, materialistic earth plane, right? We're not supposed to be waiting for these mystical life experiences. We're supposed to be dealing with the physical realm life experiences, our everyday experiences. And so let me just say that this little rant not only was to give you perspective on how we have opportunities each and every day to kind of grow up and grow out of that old reactive behavior and grow into acting as the observer and acting out of a grounded place of knowledge, wisdom, and emotion instead of the reactory, impulsive behavior of our egoic selves. Secondly, this was a particular situation and a circumstance that I wanted to share with you because it brought a wound to my leg. It meant that I had to slow down. It meant that I had to put my leg up. It meant that for this week, and as I still come to you here in the live chat, and if you're listening on the replay, thank you for being here. But as I'm here, I'm still coddling my leg. I have just taken the bandages off. I am now seeing that I have kind of gotten past the scary part of infection, but now I have a very swollen, very bruised, very disgusting looking leg that now is going to slow me down, make me a little bit more present, a little bit more aware, a little bit more grounded into my physical body. So I'm not saying go out and get yourself a dog bite in order to slow your ass down. But what I am saying is pay attention to the little things that are taking place in your life that are trying to give you the hints and the clues to slow down before the universe totally takes it upon themselves to give you a situation that you cannot override the slowing down part of. There are indications every single day that we have to become more present. And especially now, as we are kind of, running on high and running on empty and running away from things and running towards new chapters, we need to be grounded. We need to be in our physical bodies. We need to slow the F down. Okay, so pay attention to those little tiny, I'm going to say accidents that can happen out of nowhere that can have a very long lasting impact and influence on your day, on your week, on your month. We have to become more present, anchored into our physical form, and act as the observer before we react from ego. And again, I learned the hard way. So it's a lesson that we are all learning no matter where you're at and how long you've been on this particular spiritual journey. Okay, so with the, let's call it discomfort in our lower extremities, there's a lot of aches, there's a lot of pains, there's a lot of rigidity, there's a lot of cracks in our joints. We're having a hard time kind of stretching things out. We're having muscle spasms and tremors, especially below the belt. We are having a hard time stabilizing on our legs. We're having a hard time feeling like we are being supported in our legs. We might have boat legs, if you will, jelly legs. A lot of this is because, again, the leg area is very directly associated with the Sagittarius energy, but we have all of this fire energy running in us. Like, we want to take action. We want to make moves. We don't want to sit around and be restless. We don't want, to be jittering our leg all the freaking day, but we don't necessarily have a good plan. We don't have the clarity that we were hoping for on the path, on the plan, on the strategy moving forward. And so we're just kind of all over the place. We're scatterbrained, and we're definitely seeing that in our physical actions. There's a lot of discomfort in the lower back as well. And again, the root chakra that is located in the lower back at the very base of the tailbone, so to speak, that is where the programming, the conditioning of our ego selves, where that is being rewritten, so to speak. But this means that there's a lot of tension. We need to be grounded. We need to be very solidified in our physical bodies, but we're not. So there's a disconnect between the higher chakras and the lower chakras. And there's this pull, this real good ebb and flow, this attention pulling us down, making us slow down, making us be aware of our physical bodies, the aches, the pains, the ailments of our physical bodies. Again, this is all kind of, the aftermath, I guess, or the ongoing aftermath of the recalibration that we're currently going through in our chakras. So the whole slow down thing is coming at us in multitude of ways. Many people getting the cold or flu to kind of slow them down as well. I think that the CMEs and the solar flares, they definitely put more people on their butts and in bed, more so than some of the past blast off. And again, reminder that you don't have to curl up in a ball and just stay in, discomfort for the duration of the day. There are many things that you can do, and a lot of them include moving the body, moving that energy throughout the physical form. So we don't want to just, sit in the pain and the discomfort. We have a multitude of therapies and modalities that we can all tap into to kind of lessen that pain, that discomfort. But we do have to kind of gain the lesson, which is to slow down and to stabilize and to be present and grounded and rooted in the present moment, while still kind of building ourselves up in our inner realm to piece together the path, the plan, the strategy that, of course, our physical bodies are in anticipatory mode, trying to await this green light go ahead. So yes, the confusion is still there. I would suspect that the new moon in Sag is going to usher in some of those puzzle pieces that are going to help us kind of piece together and gain a lot more clarity from that big picture that we are going to be downloaded with. But essentially, this is, as I'm coming to you Friday evening, we're in the breakdown phase. We're in the confusion phase, especially how Neptune has just gone direct. The wave of confusion and delusion is very strong. And, we do need to kind of ride this wave, and we will be riding it through the course of this next week through that new moon in Sag energy. And then we get kind of, I'm going to say, how do I want to say this nicely? Mercury going retrograde is kind of blocking us from the kind of clarity and progression that we would normally be taking in a normal Sagittarius season without Mercury going retrograde. So, of course, all of these different astro events, they don't happen in the same place, at the same degree, at the same point in the calendar as they do in previous years. And this is what makes astrology so fascinating, is that, of course, we have the standard zodiac season, but what happens within that zodiac season with all these different astro events kind of help to manipulate the, I'll call them energetic knobs. Again, for those of you that have been with me for a while, I'm sorry you're going to have to hear this analogy again. For those of you just kind of, fresh into this channel, this may be the first time that you've ever heard this, but I picture the planets as volume knobs on a radio, on a stereo system, whatever the case may be. Each planet or luminary, sun and moon, get their own knob. And depending on the degree, that is the volume in which they are currently kind of blasting at. We have all of these knobs at different degrees or different volumes that, of course, are going to change the sound output of the energy, the vibration, the frequency that we're currently working with. Some pierce the eardrums. Some give us this, lower bass type of vibration in our gut. Some make us feel very ecstatic, very dreamy. Think of all the different music that you've ever listened to. Think of when somebody just, slams their hands down on a piano with no real knowledge of the notes, the vibrations, and the keys that are in. Think of the uncomfortable sound that may make. And then think of the sound that it would make when you actually know where to place your fingers on the keys and the harmonious keys that get along with each other and what that sounds like. So, of course, all the planets acting as knobs, kind of dialing in their vibration and frequency depending on where the degrees are in which these planets are at in these particular energies, that is going to give us a different sound. This is what gives us the energy frequency that we're all working with. So when we are in situations where the discomfort in our physical body and our physical form is too much, this is when you need to do the meditative work to move within yourself and visualize those knobs and turn the volume down. And when you practice it, you will become very, very aware that you actually have more power and control over the discomfort in your body than you thought you had. And there's no better way, there's no better time to practice this when we are in certain situations where the CMEs and the solar flares are popping off and really putting us in a very uncomfortable state. So I'm going to welcome you to kind of, tweak those knobs into something that is a lot more tolerable. It doesn't mean you can turn it all the way off and don't even try, because you're probably going to think that that you don't have any power if you try to shut it all down. Let me remind you that human beings, we only learn through pain and trauma. We only learn through the hard way. Nobody would ever do anything any different if we were all happy-go-lucky and comfortable. Comfort zone is where we go to die. There's no improvement, there's no betterment, there's no evolvement when we're comfortable. And so when we're not comfortable, that is when we're tested to see whether or not we can tap into the wisdom and the knowledge that we've previously accumulated, put it into action, and see how much power we actually have over our own energy and over our own physical body as well. So I want you to pay attention to the ever-changing temperature fluctuations going on in your body as well. We're in a very interesting time because, of course, Sag season is a fire season. That fire season, of course, is very initiating, very exciting, very creative, very, very much wanting to take that leadership role and jump into something new. But, of course, we have a lot of other different energies that's preventing that fire from really taking over us and keeping us warm. We have a lot of earth energies, we have a lot of water energies, and especially when you get into this new moon in Sagittarius and you take a look at the elemental energy profile, we actually have 0 air working for us right now, which means that this is not a time to think logically and practically, although Mercury and Capricorn would tend to disagree. What this is a time of trusting our gut, trusting our emotions, understanding what it is that we need to cultivate within us in order to make a change, a transformation in our physical realm that, of course, will give us a lot to work with. When we kind of get this ball rolling, then we can bring the air energy back into it. We can start adding logic and practicality. We can start actually utilizing the intellect. But just remember that the brain and our intuition are two very different parts of our awarenesses, let's say. And so when we're lacking air, we need to shut that intellect brain off. We need to lean more into the intuitive side of our brain, the insight part of our brain, trusting our gut, trusting our emotions to kind of navigate some of the things that really don't make a whole lot of intellectual sense. Again, no air, no intellect. What I would also want to say is that the temperature fluctuations may actually get stuck in one area of your body over the other. And so you may have a upper half that is riding hot. You may have a lower half that is riding cold. You might have it left versus right. There are all different type of combinations, and just know that you could even have a very warm front and a very cold back. All of these temperature notes are very, very indicative of where it is that the calibration, the healing is going on in your physical body. And we really want to start paying attention, being a little bit more aware of what's going on in our physical body, especially where the energy is concerned as we approach the solstice. So I want to talk about, we've been talking about the palm chakras for quite some time. And last week I talked about, how you might be breaking nails or having hangnails or just dryness on your hands or whatever the case may be. we're going to have like sore fingers. It may feel like our fingers are, we've been in the tub too long, and then, we're all wrinkly, but then we get out of the tub and we start doing things, and then they all get inflamed and puffed up and red, and it hurts. And it's almost like they're so tight that you can't even see your fingerprints anymore. You may be having hand cramps, finger cramps. You may get your hands or fingers trapped in a door or a drawer or some kind of uncomfortable situation. Again, this is an indicator where it is that we're trying to restore the energy to our palm chakras, and even more than that, step into our creator energy. We have to have power and control over our palm chakras in order to actually create into the world, leave a long-lasting impact, our, I'm going to call it energetic fingerprint on the world around us. So because these are kind of coming online, not only are you going to feel it in your fingers and in your hands, you could have a lot of aches and pains. Maybe your wrists are hurting. Maybe holding your coffee in the morning seems to be a little bit more difficult. Maybe there's trembling. Maybe you have tennis elbow. Maybe there's just a lot of tension coming in that arm space. And if you do have tension, you follow all the way up to your shoulders. I want you to take a good look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, what burdens are you carrying for other people? The weight of the world that we carry is never usually our own. And so we have to be very aware of what it is that we are carrying as far as other people's energy goes, because that has a major contributing factor to how it is that we're thinking and feeling, and where the energy blockages are being kind of illuminated in our physical form. I feel like this goes with kind of the pain in the lower back as well. But a lot of it has to do with indigestion. A lot of it has to do with our bowels. A lot of us still holding on to the crap, figuratively speaking. Many of us have swollen parts down there in the woo-woo land. And a lot of this is just because, again, the recalibration, but it's also because we're coming to a very, very important ending in our karmic chapters. And there is both an anticipation and an excitement of jumping into something new, as much as there is a lot of fear. And anytime that we have fear, we unconsciously hold on to a lot of the old, and that can translate in feeling backed up, feeling constipated, having a lot of bloating, having a lot of literal shit just kind of puff up our lower extremities. And of course, that has a domino effect, really creating a lot of pressure, a lot of intensity on our lower backs. And of course, that extends down into our legs. And of course, Sag season highlights the cramps, especially in the upper thighs, in the knees, and the ankles. We are getting prepared to take some steps forward, but again, we're lacking clarity and direction. And so there is a lot of tension that gets held in our lower extremities. I want you to pay attention to the little bumps that you may be getting on your tongue or in your mouth, canker sores, maybe split lips, different type of sensations. Maybe the roof of your mouth is very, very sore. Maybe your teeth are hurting. Maybe your gums are sore. There's a lot of fire being held in the mouth, in the throat chakra. A lot of that is because Mercury being in Capricorn. We don't really like to talk on our thoughts and our feelings. We only want to talk matter of fact if it means that we can resolve an issue. We're not wasting our time and our energy talking about anything that isn't matter of fact, that isn't tangible, that we can't actually work with. So a lot of the times, emotions, thoughts, ideas, because they're not actualized, because they're not realized, we keep them to ourselves. And when we keep them to ourselves, we hold that energy into that particular area of our body, and manifestations of sores, cuts, canker sores, sore gums, all of those different things that I just rattled off can be an indicator that we have a lot to say that we're biting our tongue upon. And so this is going to, again, domino effect in the congestion, the clearing of the throat, the swollen throat, the itchy throat, the sore throat. It goes all the way down to the chest space. Of course, Venus working her way through the shadow realm of Scorpio energy. We're holding a lot of things in there as well. There's a lot of heart activations, a lot of tension in that chest space. You may find it in limited breathing. You may find it in bouts of grief and sadness. There's just a domino effect that takes place the minute that we create an energy blockage in one area of our body, the minute we watch that kind of, fall back into different areas of the body because of the energy blockage and the, I'm going to say, awareness that the discomfort in our physical form is trying to bring us bring us into. We need to pay attention to certain areas of discomfort in order to actually get the message, so to speak. But in the mouth, I also want to just bring to your attention that we're going to be putting the fuzzy sweaters back on our teeth and on our tongues. That tongue film that we get every now and then, it's definitely going to be a week of the tongue film. Feeling like you haven't brushed your teeth even though you have. Feeling like you can take a drink of something or eat something to kind of cleanse your palate and then just have that gross morning breath film sensation kind of stay with you throughout the day. Again, it's a good idea to take a good look at what is sitting on your tongue. What are you biting your tongue upon, especially when truly expressing a lot of emotions and a lot of new ideas are concerned. I want you to pay attention to your hair. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, how this recalibration that we're going through. Our hair is our antenna. And this is how we pick up on the subtle energies of the world around us. And when we go through a recalibration, we see a change in our hair. Now, you may be taking it upon yourself to make that change to your hair by cutting it, by styling it differently. Hopefully, you're not putting poison and hair dyes in it, because of course that's just suffocating your connection to the cosmos. But we also just want to talk about the change in oils, the change in texture, even the change in color. And I think most of us, especially as we approach the solstice energy and we kind of tap into this new version of self, we're going to be seeing a lot of changes in our hair. Essentially, we've upgraded that antenna that was locked into a very specific radio station no longer is receiving that connection. We have to kind of move things around. We have to see what is changing. We really have to find a new grounding spot where this antenna is going to connect us to a radio station that is very clear, where we're receiving that communication, that frequency, that signal very strongly, and we're actually able to quote unquote hear what our hair is trying to tell us. This should be no surprise, but we're still going to have some sinus issues. There's a lot of pressure in the head affecting the clogginess, let's call it, of the ear space as well. It feels like there's water in one side of your ear. Feels like everything's kind of muffled, if you will. A lot of that is because Mercury is in Capricorn energy, essentially speaking. Earth energy, Capricorn energy, it's like we have our head buried in the sand, so to speak. So we're picking up on the wah wah, but we're really not hearing things as clear as we would like. And anytime that we are either not hearing things or we are hearing things, but hearing things that we don't actually want to hear, we're going to have sensations in the changes of our hearing, of the clicking, of the muffledness, of feeling like we have water stuck in our ear. The head pressure can definitely lead to headaches, migraines, especially the moving migraine. I have had a migraine pretty much, I'm going to say, the majority of this week. And a lot of it has been a moving migraine. So really doing a lot of scalp massage, trying to trigger and activate the cranial nerves and seeing where those particular pressure points are connecting to the physical body. You can trace it. You can map out your whole physical experience if you tune into it and actually pay attention. But what I'm saying is because of the head pressure, especially when Mercury retrogrades this week, just be prepared to have an increasing amount of pressure and, of course, the changing sensations in the head due to Mercury's movement. There is likely going to be some burning of the lips, burning of the eyes. Maybe you feel burned emotionally. Maybe you feel burned out physically. Just a lot of burning. And again, we are in a fire season. It is very normal for those particular sensations to happen at a fire season. But because we're kind of being stunted and held back from exerting this fire energy outside of our physical bodies, and we kind of have to sit with it, we do have to manage our physical energy. We do have to manage the sensations of that burning energy a little bit better. The burning lips, again, contribute to the fact that we're biting our tongue. We have stuff to say, but we're not saying it. Burning of the eyes, things are rapidly changing. We're in a fire season, so our eyes are dry to begin with. We are seeing some changes, especially once Mercury goes retrograde and we see the past coming back to the present. We're not going to want to see what it is that we're seeing, which has a major effect on our eyes, how we're seeing things, how they actually feel, whether they're dry, whether they're gritty, like I previously mentioned. I feel like if I blink too slow and those lids stick together, I just might pass out, but yet I can't sleep. So that oxymoronic situation is likely to continue as well. And also, when it comes to the mouth, I know we talked a lot about, the words that we're not saying and the energy that we're building. There may be just some random choking or gagging. So maybe you're choking on your own spit. Maybe you're choking on air. Maybe you forget to swallow. Maybe you're gagging on your food. Maybe you're just gagging trying to swallow your spit, especially with that mouth film. It's not going to feel pleasant. Whichever way you look at it, there is a throat activation because of that. This is, the mouth, the throat, the words that we're not saying. It is a lot of material coming up, especially when the past comes back. We are going to be gagging on certain situations, certain illuminations of people coming back, topics and themes, ideas coming back. That kind of makes us a little bit stomach sick. And of course, that stomach sickness is going to continue as well. You can go from pure hunger to pure nausea in a split second. You may have a deep-seated craving for something, and the minute that you start eating it, your mouth waters like you're going to puke. You may even start to gag on it. It's really hard to swallow it. It's really hard to get it down. Many of us are having a hard time swallowing the truth right now, swallowing our current circumstances, swallowing our pride. And a lot of this is going through the recalibration and the identity shift that we're currently experimenting with that, of course, will be locked in, will be anchored in for this next karmic chapter when the solstice hits. So guys, I think that's all that I want to cover this week. I want to thank you so much for showing up, not only for me, but for yourself. I want to thank you for giving yourself the kindness, the grace, the ease that you need to be giving yourself as we go through some of these obstacles, these challenges, these major transformations. I want you to constantly be reminding yourself from now until the solstice that the dark force entities are here to test you, and that you do have what it takes to walk the walk and talk the talk and absolutely override the old system, the old habits, the old patterns, the old behaviors, and rise above. It may not be easy. It may not feel comfortable, but we, step by step, day by day, are gaining a stronger sense of self. And that is the only goal that we should all be here trying to achieve, is to get to know thyself, is to love thyself, heal thyself, and know in our authentic energy exactly who it is that we are. So I'm sending you so much love. We'll talk to you soon and have a great week.